So one of the original complaints, if any, because I really love the show, for Night Stalker, was there was quite a bit of repetition in it. Now, granted, the template, it's always going to be there. Well, there's some sort of case going on. It's not an ordinary crime. It involves the supernatural. Kolchak figures it out. Kolchak. If you combine the two names, Kolchak solves it and everything, and then saves the day even, and yet no one believes him, and even if they kind of know it's true, they hate him anyway, and all that sort of. So this happens, and that's the template for the show and everything. However, for the first two movies and then for the first few episodes, it's kind of the same template of the original vampire movie that you had. And regardless of what the nature is of the monster, if you will. But eventually, they branched out. You had the invisible UFO type thing, or, the alien was invisible, stuff like that. And finding other angles. You had a werewolf episode, but hey, I know, let's put it on a cruise ship. So, things like that. They're figuring it out. Where otherwise you just have the monster, Kolchak, nobody believes him, the police hate him, his boss yells at him, but he saves the day and is the unsung hero, and all of that. And basically the monster is either a vampire or something else. It doesn't really matter. The result's the same. But, of course, it survived primarily on the charm of it, which, worked with me. That I can see in the show, and basically Darren McGavin is carrying the show, and for the most part, even when the show is firing on all cylinders, the backbone of it is his portrayal. And so finally, you come to an episode like Firefall, which really does shift things around and makes use of kind of two different elements of urban myth or folklore, or however you want to have it. Certainly folklore in the sense of the doppelganger, which was this old myth, I think originally German, and the idea that you would see your double, and this portend a very bad sign, something, usually your own death or something like that. Later on, I think there were elements of it which is what plays out in this episode, is that the doppelganger is an evil spirit who's going to replace you. There was a Twilight episode where, Twilight episode. Twilight, damn, I'm combining all the words. Twilight Zone episode where this woman waiting at a bus station keeps seeing her double, and ultimately the idea there is your double is, I guess, from a parallel universe, somehow realizes it's in a universe it doesn't belong in, but also realizes it's got to replace you. And so either you die, or in this case, she's believed to have lost her mind and is taken away to an asylum, whereas the doppelganger, you see her on the bus, she's continuing on and going to live out this woman's life, that kind of thing. Of course, in the folklore, it would have been some demonic entity or what have you, and that's the ultimate threat here. The other, I guess more urban myth, and of course that becomes a modern day folklore or whatever, is spontaneous human combustion. So people there's these accounts of, it seems to be people were burned to death, and yet nothing else in the immediate area except maybe the floor, or if the victim was in a chair or something like that. But for the most part, it's their body that's just completely disintegrated, So the idea, and people have claimed to have seen this happen or what have you, that somehow you just erupt in flames and no one quite knows how it happens and all this sort of thing. For the most part, it's just one of these weird quirks of the event. Somebody fell asleep smoking, that kind of thing. But anyway, it's one of those things that it became legendary. So now you have two of these elements brought in to this story. Right off the bat, you see basically a mob hit on a man, And this carries on to where there's this conductor, and people keep dying around him by spontaneous human combustion, and they can't quite figure it out. Although, before they die, they see a vision of this conductor. So you think, oh boy, this conductor must have some sort of psychic powers and is able to eliminate these people. Well, what does this have to do with this, mob-connected guy who died at the beginning of the show? Well, the mob-connected guy would commit acts of arson, I believe, probably, obviously, for, the mob. But he got whacked. And as it goes, it apparently, I don't think I've ever heard this angle on this, but the spirit of the arsonist is still haunting about and is attempting to take over the conductor's body. So he's taken on the appearance of the conductor, and ultimately, if he falls asleep, the doppelganger will take him over, and is eliminating the other people around him because they're seeing the vision, I guess, because they would have been a threat to the doppelganger's plot and what have you. The doppelganger begins to stalk the Night Stalker, Kolchak, because Kolchak is getting too close to all of this. So now Kolchak cannot sleep either. So he and the conductor, he ends up understanding the conductor, and people are like, tell him, don't listen to this crazy idiot and all that. But the conductor is like seen, this, and has begun to realize, oh my God. So he can't sleep either, but he can get some sleep if he's on holy ground. So obviously an element of the demonic is at play here for these rules. Don't know how a criminal spirit doesn't just go straight to hell and gets to come back and wreak havoc, but I don't know, I guess hell allowed it. Oh, if you're going to commit money, well, that's great. But so the conductor gets to take a nap while in church. He's safe. The doppelganger can't take over his body, but both he and Kolchak can see him, and it's the spirit is looking through the church window, smiling, and stuff like that. But Kolchak still can't sleep because he's got to figure out how to deal with this, and ultimately he figures out who this spirit is through his, his detective work. He's a reporter, you understand. And eventually is able to coax the spirit back into his real body by going to get the body, which creates all kinds. And this time the show ends with him getting arrested. The arsonist died at an arcade, so he brings him back to that point, and now the arcade burns down, and Kolchak gets arrested for arson. Also stealing a body. So he says, well, Vincenzo's really going to have to work hard to get me out of this one. Yeah, I guess. But there you go. I don't know if the conductor, who seems to be quite wealthy, could probably help out Kolchak too. Because he's the only one who would know that, yes, he did save him. But anyway, I doubt that it'll get mentioned. I don't know. But apparently they did do these combinations of episodes to make up a movie collection of them and release them as that. And, I guess they aired it on television later or something like that. But I believe this one and another episode that I'll get to later were combined. And I don't know if there's some kind of mention that smooths them over. I understand Darren McGavin did some narration for them to make them movies, and maybe that's the case. But I'll check those out too when I'm done with the show overall and see how that goes as well. But anyway, this was, even more, I would say, of an attempt to expand beyond the templates of the monster, really, and keeping it's still, it's some guy and something supernatural about him. Sometimes it's a woman, but still very entertaining through its charm and whatnot. And this was a new angle on how to deliver that. So there you go. Doppelgangers and spontaneous combustion. So it turns out, when it comes to spontaneous combustion, it was a doppelganger all along. Yeah. Who'd have thunk it? Well, Carl Kolchak did.